Hey guys, welcome to Starry Writing Camp, a place for beginners to master online writing. In our last course, we talked about how to come up with an initial outline. We've received many outlines after the course, and editors have picked up some examples of them. Now you can read these outstanding outlines and share your experiences about creating online in the Starry Writing Academy Facebook group. So, when we have an initial outline, what should we consider next? The answer is the matter of characters. I wonder if you heard the term OOC, out of character, was initially used in a fan fiction when an individual behaved in a manner that was inconsistent with their personality, identity, ability, or any other setting assigned to their character. Just take Obsession with My Forced Wife, a story written by Catherine Z, as an example. For you guys who have watched the last video must be familiar with the two characters, Lance and Evelyn. So what would Lance, a domineering billionaire, do when he discovered that he had unknowingly fallen in love with Evelyn, a woman from the family from which he had a hatred of? Which one would you consider is the OOC for Lance? He could pretend that he hadn't fallen in love with Evelyn and deliberately neglect her. He could confess his love to Evelyn, happily and nervously. He could pretend not to care about Evelyn, but then appear in front of her to attract her attention. He could deliberately approach other women and make Evelyn jealous. The answer is very straightforward, right? Option B overthrows the character setting for Lance. It's an OOC. If the authors write the story this way, readers might confuse how a proud man like Lance would happily confess his love to his enemy's daughter. As a result, readers might quit reading the story straight away. The best way to avoid OOC like this is to know your characters. Thus, it would be the best if you design your characters well. In this course, we will still take Obsession with My Forced Wife as an example to figure out the 4 steps of character design. Step number 1, design the background of the protagonist. Detailing protagonist's childhood, his or her parents, how he or she grew up. These information build who the current protagonist is, and it helps explain the main conflict of the story. Here is the background Catherine Z designed for Lance. Lance was born into the Cameron family, a famous mafia family. He had a very happy childhood. The Cameron family and the McLean family had a close relationship for over a decade. But something heinous happened. The enemy of the Cameron family laid a trap and killed Lance's father. Lance's uncle drove him out of the family, and Lance had to live a miserable life outside and all alone. When Lance was an adult, he quietly returned to the mafia world, and he started from scratch and cultivated his power and prestige. He killed his uncle and took up the mantle as a leader of the Cameron family. Before Lance's father died, Evelyn's grandfather, the head of the McLean family, learned about this plot, but he was threatened not to notice the Cameron family. You see, that's why the Cameron family members hate the McLean family. Step 2, figure out your character's personality. When we have the basic background of the characters, the next step is to add details to form the character's personality. Because small details about the character's personality can make him or her more likable. It's also the basis for a person's specific response to an event. Let's check out how did Catherine polish up Lance. Lance was destined to be somewhat indifferent and arrogant, and he had hated the McLean family for what they put him through. As the leader of the mafia, Lance always wore a stern face, and he seldom smiled. He had an imposing manner, and he never talked nonsense, and his orders were always very decisive. He seldom overreacted, even in the face of things and people he had hated. And he was able to use simple acts and gestures to make others fear him. The people around him carefully obeyed his orders and did not dare to go against him. Next step, what is the physical features? In the third step, we're going to give the characters a face, which means to design the character's appearance. Since we're talking about writing online fiction, If there is no particular reason, readers are more likely to fall in love with the characters that are good looking and sexy. That's how Catherine described Lance. Lance was 26 years old. He had short, dark brown hair. He was tall and strong with perfect muscles on his chest and abdomen. He was like an elaborately carved statue of an ancient Greek. After finishing the first 3 steps, we would get an image of Lance. But the story cannot happen to only one person. The next step is to build social relationships for Lance by designing other supporting characters like best friends and relatives. Mikhail, Lance's best friend since childhood, a playboy and an arms dealer. Mikhail was Lance's most trusted friend, emotional counselor, and business partner. Bella, Lance's grandmother, a gentle and wise old woman. Bella was Lance's only and beloved relative. To ease the relationship between the Cameron family and McLean family, Bella suggested that Lance marry Evelyn. So far, Lance becomes vivid in our minds. Of course, when you're designing a character, you can add additional features like occupation, education level, religion, race, nationality, hobbies, and etc. But you don't need to perfect the characters all in front of you to start writing. In fact, a character will never be perfect. We can start writing, designing characters, then refining them, and even adapt them as the story goes along. Now, it's your turn to design the characters you love. Regard to the initial outline you created after the last course. Select one of the protagonists, practice character designing step by step. Next week, we will talk about how to write the beginning. See you next course.